video. There we are.
Perfect.
How are you? Very nice to meet you. Well, I know Marcello, but I don't. Thank you again, Lisa, for giving the opportunity to talk to you as well. And I wanted to tell you that I know Marcello for a year now, and he's one of the nicest persons you ever meet in your life. Number one. Number two.
Yeah, he has his good and bad days. Let me leave it there.
Yeah. Well, like everybody has good days and bad days. You know, it's part of being human.
Yeah. How do you say that in Spanish?
Well, my Dr. Jekyll, she knows my height.
That's right. Part of being human.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, it's lovely to meet.
Same here. I listened to the album again many times, Exaudia, and it's a masterpiece.
Well,
it both. It takes two to tango, they say in Argentina. Lisa.
Now, what happened was with Exaudia, Marcello had this concept, and he had some vocals that I'd done over the years that we've done through works together, and he gathered them up and wrote this extraordinary music and put the vocals into them. And I sent me some things, and then I sang, and then he took them and he molded and sculptured the work, and then he made these amazing videos.
They're amazing. Some of them have been seen by 750,000 people, right? Three-quarters of a million. The images are very powerful. Feel free to elaborate, Marcello.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's Lisa's version of our collaboration. In my opinion, Lisa's one of the greatest composers, singers of our time. So when she bestowed her incredible art into these pieces, they became something incredible. So, I mean, her melodies, the way that I've been spending some time here in her estate here in Victoria, and seen her walk in the room, never listen to one piece of music, and just sit there and compose on top of this music that she's never heard before, and nail it on the first try with the most incredible writing. And I keep telling her, you're one of the greatest artists, composers of our time, but she doesn't believe me. So,
nobody will deny that. I agree with that statement.
We all agree with you.
Yeah. So I've been listening to music, Lisa, I'm 60. So began listening to music with my dad when I was 5 years old. So that's 55 years ago. I was born in Chile, and as you know, and I came to the United States to study, and I listen, 2 hours a day from the last 50 years or so. And your voice, your work, Exaudia, the stuff that you did with Ted Candence, and so on and so forth, with Hans Zimmer and many others, is amazing. You are a gift of God. If God exists, I don't know, but you are a gift in many ways.
I'm sure God exists, and I hope he's a bit better than my singing.
She's a drop of heaven. This is a drop of heaven.
Yeah, anyway, very kind. Thank you. Look, it's a legacy of work, isn't it? It's how we communicate, we respond to reality. We're living in a blessed situation, really, where we decide that we're going to walk away from the normality, let's say, of life, and walk into poetry and step over some lines and step over some boundaries to see how we can contribute something that wakes up the human heart and allows it to stay inspired. Really, as artists, that's what we do. We're just constantly keeping people awake, and so that they don't fall into the horror of mediocrity and boredom and depression, that there's always something that makes them feel alive and hopeful, and even if it's to remember their worst memories or the things that hurt their hearts most, but if they can be walked through that with music and paintings and poetry, so that in some way it's put into a place where they're able to heal. I've always described us as nurses of the universe. It might be a bit arrogant, but I think that's what we really set out to do. We set out to be the nurses of the universe. Would you agree, Marcello?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the work that I do is very methodic, but you put love into it. And I'm not trying to sound cliche by saying that, but you wake up every morning and you have that routine where you you commune with this thing that you love, and you keep polishing it and perfecting it every single day, you know. And that's why I love working with Lisa's voices, because I get to work with such incredible sculptures that I can fine tune, and the emotion she puts behind the writing, I mean, it's extraordinary. So all of a sudden, it's like I'm able to create these recordings that she can create on these canvases, and they both come together so beautifully. And then I get to spend time on the production end, you know, chiseling every single note and making it as beautiful as I possibly can within my own human limitations and within what's available to me. And it's, you know, I mean, our music, I think on Exaudia, I kept thinking of the idea of perfume. You know, I know I don't want to sound cliche again, but music had, like, you know, when you listen to When the Light of Morning Comes, and you start to hear those cellos, and then Lisa's voice comes in, and those synthesizer pads come in. It's almost like a perfume. Yeah, you know, it's like a perfume. It's like an essence. You walk, you know, Lisa has these extraordinary gardens in her home. And so I've had the pleasure of walking through them and getting inspired in these last few weeks I've spent in her estate. And I walk through these trees. There's these tunnels of trees, and you walk through them, and I think it's almost like an extension, a physical extension of the work of Exaudia. You know, it's because you smell things, and you hear these wonderful birds, and you hear the noise of animals running around, and I think Exaudia is almost like a musical expression of all that, you know, of who she is as an artist. And, you know, and we're trying to bring this vibration to this reality that's, you know, in the state of condition that we are in as human beings. You know, now with the technology, the advent of technology, we can bring these things to become a visceral experience for the viewer. It's more than just music now. It's an experience.
Absolutely.
You know?
And for me, it's like I'm with the crazy world that we live in, with Ukraine, and now for over a year, nobody can stop these guys. It's like a message of hope, if you will, Exaudia, at least for me. Music can bring so much happiness to people all over the world, whether you are in China or in the United States, in Africa, this condition, that condition. So music can bring happiness to people, and the two of you have been working together for many, many years, but, you know, from Samsara, from Inside, from Departure, Antidiem, and so forth. So you know, guys, you know each other very, very well. What's the motivation come from for the two of you to keep on working together and keep on creating great work and so forth?
I think it's called masochism.
Actually, for me, it's beauty. Bringing some, you know, Lisa's work is there's so much beauty in it, you know, and it's very powerful. So my challenge is always, every time I work with her, I always see the end result in my head, and I fall in love with the end result. And it's not always easy to get there, and it's sometimes quite painful. But the end result is what keeps me coming back and saying, you know what, I see this end result, you know. And I think that end result, and you know, and I'm grateful because she goes on that journey with me. She really goes on that. There's times where I sometimes wonder, my God, this woman's is going to strangle me. But she goes on that journey with me, and then at the end of it, when she sees the end result, because she trusts me, and that trust means a lot to me. It really means a lot to me. And then at the end of the day, when the result is there, for example, the videos and all that, she gave me free reign. I mean, such free reign that I'm grateful for.
Exactly, and it's entirely Marcello's project, and that's why I try, you know, against his resistance, I try to leave him alone so that he can write. And then when the time comes for me to go in and add something, my singing, then I have to know that it's absolutely a ripe moment, because I don't want to go in there and start pushing this work into a different direction. He's already discovered where he needs the piece to be. So what I'm doing is I'm simply unlocking what's already in there, but putting it into a narrative that can be expressed in a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because it's already in there. If you listen to the music without singing, it's equally as strong. If you listen to it with singing, in some way, it becomes like the light on a lake. It's just that the light has changed slightly. And it might be sunset or sunrise, or, you know, but somehow it's altered the light. Only in a very transient way, because each time you listen to a piece of music, you hear it differently. You know, you mentioned God before, and when Marcello was saying earlier that he acts out of love, of course, love is painful. You know, love hurts. It's, you know, it's the old cliche, but it's so true. And anything we do, we bring in the presence of something, you know, omnipresent, which is, you know, I call love God. God is, well, it's in the Bible that if you love God, if you know love, you know God, because God is love. So it keeps everything very pure and very simple. Of the reason why otherwise, why would we be motivated to do these things that promise nothing? They promise nothing. It's not like you wake up in the morning, you go to pack shelves at a supermarket, which would be great fun, and no one's saying anything against that, you know, and you get paid at the end of the week. That's not our lives. We live on the edge of the precipice when it comes to, are we going to achieve, are we going to unlock this in the most sincere way? And we guard that like animals, and we fight because we don't want to in any way deliver something into another human heart that isn't in its purest form. You understand? So
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's like holding a surgeon's knife, and it's life and death for us because we live in the abstract. We don't live a normal life, unfortunately. I mean, we try to. I do. I mean, I want to live a normal life. I just want a simple life. You know, when I walk in there and say, you ready? You got the seat right? Have you got that right? Okay, I'm singing. I'm doing it once and I'm out. Okay, because I've got other things to do. I need to feed animals. I've got dinner to make, you know, things, washing to do and stuff.
People to see.
And Marcello gets upset because he goes, well, you know, you should be in here with me. Why? I don't need to be in there. He's writing this music. All I do is I go to unlock the inner transience of what is already inside, and I put it into a form that it can be another layer that, as I've expressed, is the light on the lake. That's pretty much it. Or it could be the dark bit down below the lake. I don't know, however you want to see it.
And you know what goes with that is also as artists, we take every chance. We take the greatest risks of continuing to do this work at times, even though there's challenges that come against us, to be able to continue to move forward. I mean, as artists, that's part of the lifestyle, which is why it's such an interesting dynamic, because there's times where you'll take every single risk to finish a project without having the backing or the support that you think you're going to get, and you're thinking, you know what, I don't care what happens afterwards, but this is going to come into the world.
That's so true. You know, there's an old saying about artists that they're either organizing a dinner party or they're thinking about how they're going to commit suicide. It's between we live between those two realms.
Well, that for me was the motivation for creating this podcast and interviewing and stuff like that, Lisa. When I started 2 years ago during the pandemic, I have a lot of music, and I thought, well, musicians are not touring. I want to start calling people, and it was hard at the beginning, but the motivation for me is to create a musical legacy for future generation. I've been very lucky in my life that I have interviewed a lot of famous people, and I don't do that for myself. I mean, this interview, this conversation can be watched by thousands of people. I'm not doing that for me. I have no interest in being famous or for my ego, nothing like that. Is try to capture a moment for artistic purposes, upload the interview to a Facebook or a YouTube channel where a lot of people are going to be benefited from this stuff. And I told Marcello many times, if the radios or the YouTube channel generate any profit, every single penny is going to be donated. I don't need the money. I do what I do because I have my day job. I'm a computer scientist, and I do what I do because music has given me so much satisfaction, you know, and talking to people and getting to know you, and it's beautiful. I don't know where music come from, have no idea, but it's as I said before, it has given me so much satisfaction in my life. That's the only way I can put it. And the two of you are unique. We have good chemistry, you know, good days and bad days like everybody else. I'm a human too. I have good days as well, and but you have more days and bad days, I suppose. And the two of you collaborated together and arguing, and I don't like this, I don't like that.
It's part of the creative process.
Huh?
You know, there's a lot. You know, Lisa, I was speaking. We were talking last night, and Lisa said something very interesting that really resonates with me, and I've also felt this. That she says, as artists, especially an artist like Lisa Gerrard, you know, there's an electromagnetic atmosphere in her presence, you know, in all of ours, you know. And so when you're creating, this electromagnetic presence starts to become more active, and so ideas start flying out, and commitments, and the idea, you know, that you become passionate about something you've done because. And I learned a lot of this in the film industry, actually, when I worked on scores with certain directors, that I was very passionate about what I was doing. And then when they would come over and they would completely dismantle what I had done, at many times I discovered some of these directors that had no idea what music was, ended up making my scores better. Because I opened up and said, you know what, okay, I have to go along with what this creative is saying. And then I would discover that by letting go and trying something new that I was so against it, all of a sudden I discovered that my work became better. So that electrical component when I'm working with Lisa, you know, sometimes we get very passionate, but then, you know, I acknowledge the fact that she's passionate because she's so concerned about not destroying something so precious that she's created. And I feel the same way. So, you know, and as a result of all that, you know, when you said that music brings joy to people, it brings joy to people. But in today's day and age, I think music should also bring peace to people. You know, I've read a lot of comments on Lisa's tracks. You know, I go online and I rejoice in her work, not just the stuff we do together, but I listen to tracks that she's done with other artists, and I read the comments, and you read the comments where there's fans that say, wow, I was in a very dark place in my life, and one day I discovered this song, and it was Lisa Gerrard, and she's given me so much throughout the years. You know, there's a lot to be said for that, you know. There's a lot to be said for that. And she's risked so much and fought so much for her work, you know, and people, the result of that is that. And there's a lot to be said for that, you know?
It's hard work and dedication, and everybody needs to do somewhere. I have the opportunity to interview Peter Ulrich, Lisa, and I'm becoming his friend, and he mentioned many times how difficult it was for, you know, the three of you with Brendan, and going to step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and you know, it's hard work and dedication. That's what it's about, I suppose, right? If everything was easy, then what will be the point of doing anything, right?
I know, it's the same old story, isn't it? Where you sort of go, never again, and yet you're back there. It's, you know, it is who we are as people. And I don't think that we're unique from other human beings. I just think that part of the process of doing this work is unlocking the ability in other human beings to live in their dreams and their imaginations. Absolutely. And do things the way we do. You know, that we're not just designed to live in this terrible box, that we are expressively, beautiful, imaginatively human beings that can live in our dreams and share our dreams and create a sanctuary, a sanctum for others to be in their darkest hour or in their most wonderful hour. You know, it's a way of unlocking the emotional pathways. And that's the thing with music, is that it's amazing. It has such a powerful ability to put you right in a place at a certain time.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was a kid, I went ice skating in this ice skating ring, and they were playing, music from the 70s. It would have been the early 70s. And one song was a Steve Miller song called The Joker.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have been late 70s. But whenever I hear that song, I can smell the ice.
Yeah.
I can smell that, and the sort of the dank kind of environment of all these, kind of guys skating around, looking, trying to look amazing. And you become overwhelmed by this memory.
Mm.
And it's that piece of music that's led you there. It also leads me to my baby brother Mark, when I know he liked that band. And if I hear that song, if I'm in the supermarket or whatever, and I hear it come on, I'm totally and utterly transfixed. And that's the power that music has. And I have no idea how it got to get so deep inside of us. We can't explain where it comes from. We can talk all day long to you, and you're fabulous to be interested. There is no explanation. It's like it's already there. And all we're doing is plucking it out of the ether intact.
Yeah.
We're not manipulating it
nobody, as far as I know, nobody knows how memory works. And there are different layers, right? So when you bring that memory to Joker and Steve Miller Band, you can recreate the smell and the music and emotion and bring back memories and so forth. It's unbelievable, because it is stored somewhere, but nobody have explained nowadays how that works. The person who ever figured out how memory works will be receiving the Nobel Prize on the spot, because nobody knows how that works.
That's right. You can go back to a beach that you were there at 8 years old. Now the foliage, trees have grown, there's a bench there, there's a building there.
Right.
You'll know you're in the same place.
Right. And even, right.
And yet somehow our memory, and it's almost like this transient, the one thing I've always thought about music, in a way, singing, is, when you sometimes go, you might go to a dress shop or something, and they have like a mirror, and the mirror sits in a way so there's like millions of mirrors and you can't see the end of it. And you don't see where it's going. It's almost like the singing comes from the opposite place, like millions of mirrors coming in the opposite direction. But you don't know where it's coming from, and you place it into this last reflection. It gets placed into the last reflection. But and I don't know, I have no idea. And do you know what? I don't even care. All I know is that when we go and do this work, if Marcello writes something, and I completely trust his work, if he writes something and I know he does it out of absolute pure dedication, surrender, he stands naked before whatever he's doing. He's completely without sorcery. There's no sorcery there. And I trust that. So I know immediately, if I go into that room, he's going to let me do exactly the same thing, to walk side by side with him, without any kind of sorcery, without ego. We're just there to unlock what is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what is amazing. And when I look at the videos that he's made, and I think of one of my favorite moments is the girl and the boy pushing the girl in the supermarket trolley.
Yep.
And and I know it's probably not. And then the other one is the girl when she leans forward and, and I see her touch her hair. And then the tips of the ballet shoes. It's almost like that kind of abstract that is the music. And if you take away all the other images and you're just left with these finite absolutes, that's what music is. It's a finite absolute that 1 second after you've heard the piece, you've forgotten, and you have to go back and hear it again. It's almost like it's linked to another reality that we have to create to remind us that there are other realities, that there is something else, that it's not just here. You know, that we unlock these mechanisms within us that are capable of dying and having another life somewhere else. We don't know where that is, but that our life tissue moves on. And it's almost like an unlocking mechanism. I mean, you've only got to look into religiosities and all that kind of thing. I'm not totally into religion. I do love God very much, but I don't like religion. But it's always got music and incense and, you know, there's always some, so that people get to, when they pray, that in some way it allows them to surrender and reminds them that there's something that is there that isn't now. Or it is now, but it isn't clearly now.
Yeah,
we have to.
Absolutely.
It's like a massage, like a spiritual, not a spiritual. I don't want to use that word, but like a soulful massage.
Yeah,
it massages your soul, so that you remember that it's not just about, you know, getting in the car and picking up children from school, which is absolutely so important.
Yeah,
but there's a side of us that is transcendental, and that we are caught between these different realities when we dream, when we're asleep, and when we're awake we can dream, and we dream when we're awake with music and poetry and art and loving each other, sex, you know, touching each other, having that physical connection. We escape the horror of everyday patterns. And we start to remember that we have something so remarkable about us and in us and between us. And music becomes that communal tissue that brings us together, that we can all, you know.
It's beautiful to be a human being, and it's beautiful to be alive, you know, with the pros and cons, the richness, the poorness, and fight and this and that. Still being able to breathe, you know, go outside, see the sun, and listen to good music, drink a glass of wine or whatever, go for a walk, you know. It's a beautiful, we are so gifted to be human beings, you know, to have the experience to
just keep that thought alive. It's so important, that positive energy. It's just gone out there.
Yep.
And that's what we need, to send out lots of positive energy. And a lot of the stuff with the music, especially, I think, I can't speak for Marcello with his music. I know how it affects me. It affects me in a very positive way. It's very clear. I know exactly what to do when I hear it. It's so present and so transparent in its sincerity that you never have to doubt it.
You know, it's interesting because I've been working with Lisa for quite some time, and I've had people ask me, how is it to be in a room with Lisa Gerrard? Because I had one gentleman who said, I'd love to be a fly on the wall when Lisa sung some of these things. Like, for example, when we worked with Sarah and she sang on the track Geisha, or, you know, some of the work we've done together. And it's interesting because she'll hear a piece of music and she instantly needs the microphone on. And she has the idea, and it slips sometimes. She goes, but if she doesn't have that moment, and she's so clear, and she does it so perfectly on the first take, it's an extraordinary. I don't know how to say it. I mean, it's like a freak of nature. That, you know, you've got a singer that actually has never heard a piece of music and sings it perfectly on the first take.
It's a freak of nature. Yeah.
It's gone.
No, I think all singers can do this. It's just that they're expected to work extremely hard to prove. But they already know. It's just that they're like, oh, well, can you do it like this? Can you sing it that? Can you do it that way? Just let them sing. Don't worry about whether it's in tune or out of tune or on time. Or you can fix all that later.
Yeah.
Just get that moment in time where they're allowed to feel safe. And if a composer can make you feel safe, so much so that you can walk in and you can connect immediately or within a couple of takes, then that's where you want to be as a singer.
Yeah,
you don't want to be in a place where they put you in a studio and it's like it's all set up and everyone's waiting there and it's like, well, okay, you can sing now. And then, oh, okay, and then, oh, can you do, instead of that bit, can you make that bit go up there? Or can you have absolutely no idea what it is to connect with the, I don't want to use the word umbilical cord because it's too sort of physical, but it's, you connect, and once you unlock that, there's nothing more to do.
Absolutely.
You can stand there all day. Just trust your singers. I mean, I say to people, trust your singers. Don't, you know, I mean, that's one thing when I'm working with Hans. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that to you.
Absolutely.
But it's the same. He won't let me hear the piece. He won't let me hear the piece before I go in, because he knows that it's that deadly moment, that absolutely deadly moment where you've got nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to think. You just have to do it. And that's being a singer is this, when you think about it, you know, and there's other ways of understanding singing and music too, that, you know, when people are in foxholes and there's a bomb coming and they hold each other and they either pray or they sing. And they combine their energies in that, don't they?
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing is the way that I personally work is that Lisa obviously knows that I'm very meticulous and have a very clear vision of what I want. But when I work with other people, I'm inviting them, or we're both inviting each other to work. So I want the other person to do what they do. I you know, and I'm not trying to criticize or put down any other artists, but I worked with other artists that are absolute control freaks, where they don't allow that space for other artists. If I'm bringing another artist that I'm going to work with, a cellist or a violinist or a guitar player, whatever, you know, many times I've done sessions where I'll be there for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, thank you. And they're like, are we done? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you know, they're there to do what they do. So you get to a point as an artist that you've done enough and you've expressed yourself enough where you allow yourself that space to say, I don't want it to be all about me. It's not about me. It's about the work. It's about the honesty and the truth behind the work.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think Lisa and I are very compatible, because she knows for a fact that we may have differences of opinions, but those differences of opinions are always based on our passion and our commitment to the truth of the work that we're doing. It's not ego-based. It's not about me getting, you know, my moment of my spotlight moment. It's not about that. It's about the truth of the work. And there's been many times where she has denied an idea that I had, and then I discovered, you know what, she was right. You know, she was following a truth that I got to see later down the road, and I recognized, you know what, it's about that. It's about the truth. We're almost like, and I always say, we're almost like scientists. We're looking for this thing that we keep polishing and polishing and polishing over and over and over again, with this desire to make it better, because we have this idea that we want to manifest, and yet it never truly manifests. It's almost always there. You know, I listen to these albums and I'm totally on board and committed and convinced, and a few weeks go by and I go back and I go, no, there's what I thought I had put down is not truly there yet. What I wanted to put down, it's still in the ether, and I still have to keep trying to do that. And Lisa's very much that same way. And so that search, that ether that we're continuously searching for, it's not about the money, it's not about the fame, it's not about the awards, it's not about walking down the red carpet. I couldn't care less about any of that. It's about capturing that one instance of reality that's continuously escaping from your hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to the beginning of the album, because you were living in Los Angeles and Lisa was in Melbourne. How you guys put that together? Well, obviously over the internet, sending files back and forth, but
every time I have a chance, Lisa can testify to this, I try to have her in the room singing, you know, every time I have a chance. I mean, I would literally just put, you know, a bed bunk in the studio, and I would be always, you know, I would live there with Lisa if I could, because you know, she says I'm a nightmare because I want to put her voice in everything, but I love her writing. It's not just her voice, it's her writing as a composer. So in that regard, I'm a huge fan. So we had, you know, she'd be coming in and out of Los Angeles to work on films with me. I had a studio set up there where we were working out of, and so every so often in between projects, when she would arrive, I might have a piece of music and she would come and sit on the couch and we'd start talking. You know, we really get along intellectually. I'm always fascinated with, you know, because Lisa's not just a singer, artist. She's so well versed in poetry and literature. She has such refined tastes, and I resonate with that because I lived all over the world, and I went, you know, I lived in Europe, and we also lived in Spain. So we have a lot of things in common. So we'll sit in the studio and I'll play her something, and she'll get an idea and she'll record it, and then we'll end up working on a film, and those pieces will kind of get buried in the hard drives. And so I always keep a very organized way of keeping all those things together. And so when Exaudia happened, was that I had written this piece inspired by Sephardic music, and I sent it to her, and she loved it, and I was very grateful that she wanted to spend some time working on it. And I had a few pieces that, as a result of what I just explained, had in our banks. And with a little bit of effort, I thought, you know what, if you can sing on these pieces and we can do this, we've got an album. Absolutely. And so I started recording a lot of live instruments in the studio and developing them, and then she sang on them. And some of the pieces I would write, and then I would discover that, you know what, this is a great piece by itself, in my opinion. But now that she sent me vocals, her writing from a musical standpoint, I wanted to completely re-architecturalize the piece to spotlight some of the great writing she had done vocally. So it was like, I want to give now a spotlight to and bring those vocals musically and frame them in their own light within these pieces, so that people can actually acknowledge and rejoice and enjoy not just the piece for what it is, but now it deserves to be rewritten, because she's written such amazing passages that I love those passages by themselves, and I want the listener to really, you know, bask in the beauty of the work that she does. So these pieces, they start out as this piece, and, you know, and I'm grateful that she loves the work and she resonates with them. But once she sings on them, it's like, you know what? No, this deserves to be rewritten and to showcase just the beauty that she's brought into this piece by itself, you know, and make it work and dance with the piece as a full composition. So
absolutely, no, absolutely. Lisa, it's a question for you. You think in very interesting ways, as if you're creating your own vocabulary, your own language. Obviously, it's not English. Sometimes in English, sometimes it is in English. But are you conscious when you are thinking, or you have an idea, you have a painting in front of you, forget about the Exaudia, you have a painting, you read Pablo Neruda, or you saw a paint from Picasso, and then words start coming out of your mouth. How you manage that?
It's not academic at all. It's just automatic. It's automatic, and it's usually to do with, say, for instance, Marcello wrote a piece of music that I sang to the other day that sounded South American.
Really?
So to unlock that piece, there are these vernaculars that exist within the sort of the shapes and the colors of the guitars that are part of that language. So it is interesting, because I had a neurologist say to me once, how can you sing that language from a piece that you wrote when you were 19 years old, and it's still the same kind of vernacular, and yet when you sing this piece, it's another vernacular? It's almost like the languages are innate within the music itself. So I'm just interpreting what's already there. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's an automatic response to what is real.
Yeah. It's I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I can't explain it to you. All I know is that when I heard that South American piece, or a piece that sounded like it had some kind of feeling from
Peru, or probably.
Yeah, probably Peru.
The Andes.
Yeah, it had that feeling about it. And the language is already invoked by the music that's there, and it's automatic. And I think all singers can do this. I think they just have to be allowed. And don't think, listen. Stop thinking and just listen. It's already there. You know, that's the one thing when I work with singers, and I do some master classes. And the thing that the hardest thing to do is to get them to stop thinking. Just feel it. Just make a noise and follow the noise and, you know, let it overwhelm you, even if it's only 2 or 3 notes. I'm telling you, I've been in rooms with people where it's like you say, well, who'd like to have a go first at singing a note? You know, it might just be what's your first note? That's the one you're comfortable with, right?
Yep.
So what do we do with that? Where do we go with this one? And no one wants to. And I'm like, hands up, who wants to sort of go first? And no one puts their hand up. Do you know, within 15 minutes, you can't shut them up. And it's like, you have to say, you know, can Jane have a turn, please? It's like, because, you know, William is suddenly, you know, he's off and he's racing. And it's like, and then when you get them working together, where even though it's not in unison, the fact that they are creating this wonderful sort of cyclone of gentle tonics together, and they combine and they fall into, and it's so therapeutic. And you know, the one thing that I always find when we do this work together, you never know when to stop. You never know, how do I end this? How do I say, okay, that's enough, guys, because you can't. But somebody will start laughing. And everybody starts laughing. And you know, and it can be 5 minutes or it can be 20 minutes. But once that person goes, everybody falls into that laughter. And that's the end of the composition. It's extraordinary. And it's such a wonderful healing way of exiting this communal positive unification of all these voices falling in and around each other. It's wonderful. And that's probably the most primal part of what music is. It's that where we all join in frequencies. Because you know that when you play music in a theatre, every room you play that piece in, every room you sing that piece in, is going to depend on the electricity of the people that are present. How it's different every time. Like you can play in Chile and everyone, but the minute you walk on stage, everyone's on the air, like, oh my God, you know, and they're absolutely excited. And then you can go to the very next stage, Germany, and everyone's so reverent.
That's
and it's like, of course, you know, you're dealing with a completely different frequency. And it's not to say one is more important than the other, but of course it's going to affect the connection and the performance.
Yeah, people in Latin America, as you know, right? So they're very expressive, and they tell you, they applaud in between tracks as well. And you, on the other hand, you are receiving all that warm and affect from people. It must feel amazing, you know, to feel that way. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's food, and you realize it's so important that we're together at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where the motivation come from the two of you coming from different part of the world to keep on working together and keep on working together? And you know, you go away, and then Lisa does her own thing, and then, hey, Lisa, I have an idea. Can we get together next week or whatever? Where does the motivation, the tenacity to keep on working?
Truth that we always talk about is that truth that keeps nagging at us, telling us, you know what, like she said, you know, sometimes you say, oh, I'll never do this again, but then that truth keeps nagging at you, and you go, you know, you find these creative soulmates, for a lack of a better word. You know, that
that's a wonderful description.
That you say, with this person, I can bring this work forward. Yes, I can do. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is that when I first started out, I wanted to express all this. You know, you're a young artist and you have all these ideas you want to express. And then you do. If you're lucky enough and you push hard enough and you work hard enough, you'll get the opportunity to do it. But then there's a moment where you realize that there's a lot more to create in the spirit of collaboration. Mm-hmm. Just like what Lisa was talking about, when all these groups of people get together with vocals. And that's another thing I want to address too. When I work with Lisa's vocals and I can create choirs with her vocals, the vibration that comes out of that is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so you find these people that you create with that, yeah, you can do it on your own, absolutely, but when you're with those people, you're better. When you humble yourself and these people come into your space and you're open to creating with other people, you realize that the work gets better.
Absolutely.
And so
it's more dangerous. There's a danger in collaborating that you don't have when you work alone. It's very safe when you work alone. Yeah. You can organize and you can have strategies on how you're going to approach this, that, and the other. But there's a definite danger when there's a collaboration, because you can't. It's exciting from the point of view that you can't possibly know what that person's going to create, and how you're going to respond to their creation.
But it's also that aspect of being artist and being on the edge. Are you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The truth itself that you're looking for through your work is what pushes you to take those chances and to say, you know what, I'm not going to be in the comfort zone all the time. I've already been in the comfort zone long enough that I want to. Now it's time to get on the edge and see what happens and see what comes out of it. Fly across the world and maybe work in an environment that you're not comfortable, or you're not necessarily uncomfortable in, but that it's completely new and foreign to you. What's going to happen as a result? What results are you going to get as a result of putting yourself in a position like that? And that's the challenge, and that's the beauty of being an artist.
Absolutely. Taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone is the only way to accomplish anything in life. If you think about it, being art, being an engineer, being a musician, being a painter, whatever that is, it's you need to feel uncomfortable.
It's sometimes you go through those times and then you look back and you realize there were some of the most extraordinary moments of your life when you were uncomfortable.
Absolutely. The music, when every time that I listen to, I suppose, Death Can Dance or your music, Marcello, or Exaudia, it's very melancholic, at least for me, for who I am. It does affect you, the performance, when singing melancholic tune or working a melancholic track, with your own reality, how you balance, the melancholic word versus the you as the person.
Day to day, yeah. It's sometimes, sometimes you realize that when you're going through to write, some of the greatest pieces of music have been melancholic.
That's right.
And so artists deal with that level of depression that they go into, they have to dive into to create and then come out of. It's complicated. It's really complicated. As you can see,
because you're unlocking pain fields, aren't you? I mean, you're not just unlocking, it's not like happy. You have to open up all of the pathways that are your experience, and many of your experiences that come out during song forms or musical forms are painful. It's almost like a panacea in a way.
But the fascinating thing is that humans tend to react to those works more than happy. I mean, you listen to a piece, when you listen to, for example, Mercedes Sosa, or you listen to, some of these pieces of music, and it's usually the melancholic ones that tend to touch people the most.
Absolutely.
For some reason, especially in art culture, in South America, with all the some of the music's very melancholic. It's, and it's in poetic, when you read, some of the writers as well, the stories are tragic, yet it brings such attention from the public, it touches the public a lot more.
Yeah. And if you, for instance, if you have seen or read some of the comments from some of the tracks from Exaudia on YouTube, and people are very open with this. I would say, I just lost my job, or my daughter was in a hospital, or my dad passed away, whatever. And then this particular track brings me a lot of hope. I cry a lot, but I'm seeing life from a different perspective, and so on and so forth. It's amazing what, like, your type of music does for people.
Music that does that, though. I mean, I know we've all experienced great loss and death, and remembering a love affair or something. They're the things that mold you. I remember when my brother died, and I had seen lots of Juan Miro paintings, and I sort of didn't really, I thought they were nice. I thought they were interesting. But when my brother died, I was exposed, my senses were so exposed that when I saw this painting, The Lovers, of all these strings and wheels, and I completely understood it. And that's something that we have, this crust that grows over us that's called ignorance. And it happens to us from when we're a very early age. And as we get older, we get harder and harder crusts. And the things that take that crust away are things like music, so that we can experience something in a deeper way, whether it's not even the music itself, but a memory or the fact that we've lost a loved one, and that it allows our crust to fall off us, our ignorance to fall off us. You know, that's the thing that these things do, is that because we're forced, we have to be so tough in life. You know, we have to be able to wake up in the morning and face a whole new day with a whole lot of issues that need to be addressed that aren't necessarily comfortable. But then, and so we build up these shields and barriers. But it's things like the arts. And when Marcello was saying earlier about how music, you know, when people, they're in contact with music, they cry, or the melancholia, you know, that those things, those shields fall down. And in a way for us to remain healthy emotionally, we have to have those shields come down.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we're not making decisions based on sensitivity. We're making them based on our crusty, ignorant, self-serving selves. So we have to keep our role as musicians. Our role as artists, I believe, is that we keep each other sensitive.
Yeah, right. It's sort of, if we bring it to a psychological level, right, in Carl Gustav Jung terms, right, we build a persona, we bring walls, and then all of a sudden, in your case, your brother passed away, or my dad passed away, and you take the mask in front of you, right, and then you let emotion come to you, and there you cry, you can express yourself, or, you know.
I think what music does really, it's like Lisa's talking about the crust, you know. I've seen it in people that have become much older, and they've suffered a lot. All of a sudden they listen to a piece of music. What happens is that the music allows them to revisit that moment in a very safe space.
Yeah.
You know, they experience that music in a very personal, safe space. The music goes through them. And in that very safe space, they get to experience that secret memory that they have, that they don't want to relinquish to, you know, as a result of being fragile. And they can be fragile in that moment with that piece of music. And the music allows that space to happen. You know, you could say it's the music, or you could say it's an avenue for that person to experience that memory, that moment, in the most fragile sense, in the most private sense, you know. And so that's what music really allows you to experience.
Exactly. It's a private world. And you also have to remember that, you know, the old Cadillac that we walk around in, you know, this car that we're in, this fleshy vehicle, rots in the ground. So we better, you know, exercise some greater soul tissue dimension, whether it be spiritual or whatever. I don't think music is spiritual. I think it's a soulful experience. But if we're not evolving in those areas, when that thing goes into the ground, what are we left with? You know, we worked hard in the factory building pipes. Great. Okay. You know, I don't know. I just think that these are the things, these properties have been in a way given to us in the human context of keeping the very thing alive that lives on after the rest is gone. In some way. It agitates that. Anyway, I've had enough.
Yeah. Anyway, one last thing we want to do is we'd like to
say thank you.
We want to say a very, very special thank you to you, Claudio. You've been an amazing person. You've supported us, so we want to thank you, and we also want to thank Christian Conti. Can you say that?
Thank you, Christian Conti.
For all your help.
Muchas gracias.
For the fan group and all support you've given to Exaudia. Thank you.
And the last question, I need to ask you that. So you just finished the tour with Jules, the Burn. You're working with Hans Zimmer now. Is there a possibility to bring this beautiful album, Exaudia, on a stage and probably tour down the road? Is there a possibility?
That's our dream. We want to do this, but we need to find out how we can do this, because it's tricky, you know, because it always comes back to currency, you know, it always comes back to people taking risks and money and etc. And it's a tricky one, but we're looking into this and we hope to do this. We would love to, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
We really want to, because that's the time when you really get to commune with the people that have been touched by the work, and it's so important.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it becomes a very lonely experience, and we don't want it to be lonely. We want to share it.
Well, let me know if I can do anything from my end here, because I would love that too. I'm a very stubborn person. I will not stop nagging the two of you until I see you in front.
Stage. We invite you to nagging. We invite you to keep nagging.
We like your nagging.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can come to one of my master classes and nag your head off all day long. All right, darling.
It was very nice talking to you. Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you very much, Marcelo. It was very nice talking to you and impromptu, and it was good. Keep on working hard, keep on accomplishing great things. Good luck with the Hans Zimmer tour, Lisa. I'm going to be in London, seeing you the June 14 and 15 in London. So
okay, so let me know. Do you have tickets? Because I always get a couple of tickets that I'm allowed to have for the concerts. So.
Oh, if you that would be great. If you I don't have ticket.
We can.
Yeah, maybe you guys can connect in London or something. You know.
Yeah, that would be great. And good luck to you, Marcelo. When are you flying back to the United States? Tomorrow or?
Tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Well, good luck to you, man. It was nice talking to you, and hopefully we'll share a meal or a glass of wine or a beer, whatever, next time around in London, maybe, when I see you.
All right, darling. You take care now. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.